Well, the current owner of the Washington Post is one of the billionaires who now lives in abject fear of Donald Trump. The owner of the Washington Post is actually the fourth richest person in the world. And like every fourth richest person in the world, he dreams of becoming the richest person in the world, which could happen if Donald Trump decides to support that billionaire's space exploration company, and if Donald Trump helps that billionaire get an edge in the business development of artificial intelligence. And so the fourth richest person in the world no longer allows the Washington Post to count Donald Trump's lies. During the first Trump presidency, the Washington Post counted 30,573 lies that averaged out to 21 lies a day by Donald Trump. And there were days, remember, when Donald Trump didn't speak at all, didn't post anything at all, like when he had COVID. And that means that there were days when Donald Trump told many more lies than 21. Donald Trump told more than 21 lies this morning when he called into CNBC, as we will hear later in this hour, when we're joined by Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman. And then Donald Trump took some questions from reporters later in the Eisenhower office building beside the White House. And I leave it to you to decide if this was one of the lies Donald Trump told today. Question: were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell? Answer: I didn't know about it at all. Nope. I read about it just like you did. The only people who can believe that are the people who believe every word Donald Trump says. The next question was, do you believe that she's credible to be listening to? Your deputy attorney general sat down with her recently, to which Donald Trump responded, well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. The reporter, Caitlin Collins of CNN, repeatedly says, but what about her? But what about her? As Donald Trump rambled on about his former criminal defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, who is now the Deputy Attorney General, who Donald Trump claimed today is respected by everybody. Now, I sat in a courtroom in Manhattan and watched Todd Blanche lose in the one criminal trial Donald Trump has faced, where Donald Trump was hit with 34 guilty verdicts on 34 charges because Todd Blanche was the worst lawyer in that room. So no, Todd Blanche is not respected by everybody. That is another lie Donald Trump told when praising his criminal defense lawyer today. The Trump White House is leaking the possibility through various news agencies that a transcript will be released of Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. There is no possibility that that transcript will include all of Todd Blanche's communication with Ghislaine Maxwell and her criminal defense lawyer, who is a personal friend of Todd Blanche. As Donald Trump kept rambling about Todd Blanche, and the reporter kept asking, but what about her? Donald Trump ignored that question, what about her, and didn't say a word about Ghislaine Maxwell. This time, Donald Trump did not say, I wish her well, which Donald Trump has said before about the woman who was convicted of recruiting children to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein and sexually abusing those children herself. Tonight, ABC News is reporting, quote, during her 9 hours speaking with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche last month, Ghislaine Maxwell said nothing during the interview that would be harmful to President Donald Trump, telling Blanche that Trump had never done anything in her presence that would have caused concern, according to sources familiar with what Maxwell said. That was obviously the mission Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer embarked on: get Ghislaine Maxwell to say nothing that would be harmful to Donald Trump. And then Ghislaine Maxwell immediately got transferred from a serious federal prison in Florida, meant to house, among others, sex criminals, to the easiest federal custody facility that exists in America for women, which is not meant to house sex criminals like Ghislaine Maxwell. The rules had to be changed by Donald Trump's Justice Department to get Ghislaine Maxwell into that much more pleasant facility that is located in Texas near members of her family. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers lied today in a motion opposing the release of grand jury testimony in her case. The lawyers made the legitimate point that I've made on this program, that Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal is still pending before the United States Supreme Court. So grand jury transcripts should not be unsealed in a case that could conceivably go back for a retrial. That is a serious legal point. But the lawyers went beyond that and claimed that Ghislaine Maxwell is a scapegoat. That was their word. And that's the word that they want out there about Ghislaine Maxwell. The Maxwell lawyers wrote, when Epstein died, prosecutors from the Southern District of New York pivoted and made Maxwell the face of his crimes. She became the scapegoat and the only person the government could put on trial. This is what Judge Allison Nathan said about Ghislaine Maxwell's own crimes, the ones she committed, when the judge sentenced Ghislaine Maxwell for 20 years in federal prison for the crimes committed not by Jeffrey Epstein, but the crimes committed by Ghislaine Maxwell. The judge said, quote, the evidence at trial established that Ms. Maxwell directly and repeatedly and over the course of many years participated in a horrific scheme to entice, transport, and traffic underage girls, some as young as 14, for sexual abuse by and with Jeffrey Epstein. The judge paused there to stress that phrase, by and with. The judge said, I will pause on those words for a moment, by and with Epstein. It is important at the outset to emphasize that although Epstein was, of course, central to this criminal scheme, Ms. Maxwell is not being punished in place of Epstein or as a proxy for Epstein. Like every other participant in a multi-defendant case, Ms. Maxwell is being punished for the role that she played in the criminal conduct. As to that role, the trial evidence established that Ms. Maxwell was instrumental in the abuse of several underage girls and that she herself participated in some of the abuse. Ghislaine Maxwell was a child molester. That was proved in her trial. During her sentencing hearing, the prosecutor said that the whole sex trafficking scheme began with Ghislaine Maxwell's recruitment of the first girl enlisted into that scheme. The prosecutor said this about Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. They were predators together. They molested kids together. And Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal defense lawyers did not say one word in her sentencing hearing to contradict that statement that the prosecutors made. They heard the prosecutors say that, and they didn't say a word about it. No one stood up in that courtroom for Ghislaine Maxwell to say that she did not molest kids. Ghislaine Maxwell spoke at her sentencing hearing herself, and she did not.
In a revealing development, the billionaire owner of the Washington Post, identified as the fourth richest person globally, has reportedly altered the newspaper's editorial stance due to fears of repercussions from former President Donald Trump. This shift has led the outlet to cease its practice of cataloging Trump's falsehoods, a stark contrast to its previous tally of 30,573 lies during his first presidency, averaging 21 lies per day. The decision appears tied to the billionaire's ambitions in space exploration and artificial intelligence, where Trump's support could prove pivotal. The narrative took a darker turn with discussions surrounding Trump's alleged involvement in the prison transfer of Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker linked to Jeffrey Epstein. When questioned about the transfer, Trump claimed ignorance, stating he learned of it only through media reports. However, skepticism abounds, with critics arguing that only Trump's most ardent supporters would believe his denial. The transfer saw Maxwell moved from a high-security Florida prison, designed for serious offenders, to a more lenient facility in Texas, closer to her family. This move required changes to Justice Department rules, raising questions about influence and favoritism. Further scrutiny fell on Trump's Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, his former defense lawyer, who reportedly met with Maxwell for 9 hours last month. According to sources cited by ABC News, Maxwell's statements during this meeting absolved Trump of any wrongdoing in her presence. Critics view this as an orchestrated effort by Blanche to protect Trump, especially given Maxwell's subsequent prison transfer. Blanche's legal reputation also came under fire, with reports highlighting his poor performance in Trump's Manhattan trial, where Trump was convicted on 34 counts. Despite Trump's claim that Blanche is respected by everybody, this assertion was labeled as another falsehood. Maxwell's legal team has pushed back against accusations, arguing in a recent motion that she is a scapegoat for Epstein's crimes. This claim was refuted by Judge Allison Nathan during Maxwell's sentencing, where she was given 20 years for her direct role in a horrific scheme to traffic and abuse underage girls, some as young as 14, alongside Epstein. The judge emphasized Maxwell's personal involvement, rejecting the notion that she was merely a proxy for Epstein. Prosecutors underscored that Maxwell initiated the trafficking scheme by recruiting its first victim, branding her and Epstein as predators together. Trump's ties to Epstein also faced renewed examination. Despite Trump's claim that he expelled Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club, evidence suggests Epstein remained a member until October 2007, over a year after his 2006 indictment for sex trafficking. This contradicts Trump's narrative, as reports indicate Epstein's membership may have ended by his own choice, not Trump's intervention. The Daily Beast and a book by Miami Herald journalists further detailed Epstein's continued association with Mar-a-Lago, including his recruitment of victim Virginia Giuffre from the club's spa in 2000. Adding to the controversy, Republican House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer issued subpoenas targeting Epstein-related documents from the Justice Department, as well as former attorneys general, FBI directors, and even Bill and Hillary Clinton, citing their tangential connections to Epstein and Maxwell. These actions highlight ongoing efforts to probe Epstein's network, though critics note the weaker links to the Clintons compared to Trump's documented interactions with Maxwell and Epstein. The unfolding saga paints a troubling picture of power, influence, and accountability, with Trump's past statements such as wishing Maxwell well and his administration's actions raising concerns about potential pardons or leniency for a convicted abuser. As Maxwell's appeal looms, the debate over her role and Trump's involvement continues to stir public and legal scrutiny.